This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So, Nick, it's good to see you here after I saved your life Friday night at the game.
I wasn't even paying attention. I had no idea what was going on. I just saw your hand go up. You're like, here's a hot dog, buddy.
So, for those that are wondering what we're talking about, Griff shot his extremely powerful hot dog cannon towards the upper bowl near the press box, and Nick was not paying attention. He was eating ice cream. And I see it launch, and I'm like, that's coming right for him. It goes off the wall behind us, bouncing back. And I one hand catch that thing, probably 2 feet from your face, and it was going square for the center of your face.
Yeah, it was one-handed. I do remember that, which I'm glad it worked out that way because I was trying to decide if I was going to get a hot dog downstairs or ice cream. And I was like, my mouth still hurts really bad. I'm going to go with the ice cream option. We'll figure out dinner later.
And you got both.
And I got both. But that wasn't the only way I was going to die that night either. That elevator.
We'll not talk about the elevator. We'll save that for a Patreon episode there. Holy bleep.
If you listen to the game, Bob and Leary actually talked about it on Saturday. It made the game Saturday night. So
I'm not surprised because taking the steps all night Saturday sucked. Anyways, we have a lot to talk about. Welcome to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick.
No, I'm Travis.
Nick, it's good to have you back, man.
I'm
been
so
like
happy.
2 weeks.
So
how are you doing?
Back. Better. It still hurts. My mouth still hurts, but that's why I was off. I had a small mouth issue that was hurt to talk, and my whole job requires me to talk. So to jump on for an hour and a half was a little bit tougher to do last week.
I just high sticked him after a game. It's okay.
Got hit in the face with a hot dog.
Chaos.
Okay, that
chaos,
might
I tell you.
out.
Oh, nope, it's staying. Anyways, Trav, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a busy weekend down here, and I don't have a whole lot to give to this episode. I'm just here for vibes. I'm going the whole Nick route today.
I like it. Here for the vibes. Oh, God, we're off to a great start. Yeah, you had a nice 3-3 down there that we'll talk about in our Toledo show later this week, so stay tuned for that one there. A ton to talk about from those games, but also a lot to talk about with the Grand Rapids Griffins right now, too. This episode, we're going to go through the 2 games this weekend at home against the Rockford Ice Hogs and what those did for the Griffins getting closer or not closer to clinching a playoff spot. We have a ton of roster moves to talk about, and we're also going to talk about what this Griffins roster might look like with who potentially will get assigned to Grand Rapids over the coming weeks here. Will Grand Rapids sign some college free agents? Will they get reinforcements from current draft picks from the Red Wings? Who knows? But we're going to dive into it and talk about what we do know so far and speculate on what possibly could happen. Before we dive into all that, though, just want to remind you guys, if you're not following us or subscribing to us on Patreon yet, head over there. You get unedited episodes with all the chaos that Nick wishes I cut out or I do cut out for his sake, and on a whole bunch of other things, some upcoming giveaways that we'll do there as well. So head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check out the tiers we have there. We make them as affordable as possible, and anything you give to us over there helps support the show and makes us available to bring you better content. Order things like the hats that we need to put up for sale here that we still do have, as you've seen some players on certain teams wearing them during intermissions in Toledo. Shout out Trenton Bliss for rocking the hat during that. That was super cool to see. But yeah, head over there, like we said, patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. Check out the tiers we have. Let's dive into talking about the roster changes that have already happened and the news that we do for sure know before we dive into these Rockford games this weekend. And the first one that made news today is Emmitt Finnie was officially assigned by Detroit to the Grand Rapids Griffins here now that his season in juniors is wrapped up. And what a massive boost this kid could potentially be for the Grand Rapids Griffins right now. He had an incredible season in Kamloops this year, being their captain, tore it up in 55 games. I think it was 84 points. Absolutely ridiculous for him. Nick, how excited are you to see him arrive in Grand Rapids now this year compared to what we saw last year? Because we know when he stepped in, he probably wasn't ready to be stepping into an AHL role at that point. I think he was just supposed to be here to observe and learn the pro life, but due to injuries got tossed in. So what do you expect to see from him this round?
Yeah, I remember watching him last year, and he's a I'm trying to remember. Is he 7th round pick? He's down there in the draft.
Seventh round, 201st overall.
Yeah, I mean so we weren't expecting much out of this kid when he got here last year, and when they brought everybody up, like there was a lot of prospects just watching, like Carter Guyland. I remember him being up here, and he was here to take in the vibes, And Finnie looked pretty lost, pretty out there. He looked kind of like Ammo that first night when Ammo got put on the wing, like just out of sorts. And he had a good season the year prior too. I mean, in 62 games, he had 59 points. So, I mean, it's still pretty good. This year he took off, I'm excited to see him. I think Coach Watson is, after Friday's night game, I'm pretty sure he's pretty excited to have another forward to be able to utilize for the game. I got that talking to. So definitely excited to see what he brings. If I remember correctly, like he was pretty physical. So I don't know where he's going to slot in the lineup, either third or fourth line. But he took off pretty well this season in Kamloops. And it sounds like he is, based off the interview today that Kamloops did, I think he is done there and he will be full-time Griffin this year and next.
Yeah, I believe that's the route he'll go to as well. And yeah, you're right. Like he did have a good season the year before at that 59 points in 62 games, but to take off to 84 points in 55 this year just showed that he did take another step there. He's the captain of the Kamloops Blazers this year as well. And Nick, you have something exciting to share suddenly?
He upped the biggest point jump was almost 20 goals. Like
he started finding the back of the net, man.
Yeah, the assists stayed the same. So it was more goal scoring, which is what this freaking team needs. so
yeah. I mean, if you haven't watched Finnie before, he's a good two-way player. He's got some speed. He does have some size to him, but his hockey IQ is really shows through. He knows where to go, where the puck's going, and that's how he scored a lot of those goals in Kamloops, just kind of hunting down that puck and firing it at the net, a kid who's not afraid to shoot. And like you alluded to, Nick, with the Griffins having to go 11-7 in both games this past weekend because they had no other choice, this is a very welcomed addition. Travis, any thoughts that you want to add on what you've seen from Finnie and his growth over this past year?
It's just crazy how you can somehow find these talents later in drafts, and it'd be interesting to see like in a redraft where he would go already. Like, not, and again, like he's got a long ways to go, right? He's 7th round pick, so the odds are still against him to get to the NHL, but it's a huge success when you see a guy go from 59 points to 84 points, and he missed time this year. Otherwise, he probably would have been pushing 100 points. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and it's just incredible to see, like you said, Nick, the goal scoring jump. Like that's a big thing. Anytime you can find a guy that can score is huge. Can play. I think he's a center by trade. Yeah. And well, it just says forward as position, so maybe it's anywhere. Who knows where they're gonna slot him in? I would have ventured to guess they'll probably start him on the wing, probably just to kind of ease him in. I mean, he did play 3 games last year with the Griffins, but again, he was a very young player, so it'll be interesting to monitor. It should be some huge help for Grand Rapids in their bottom 6, and for a team that's struggling to score goals, you get a guy that scored 37 in junior this year that hopefully can translate, or at least half of it can translate.
Yeah, I'll take half of that translating. And, he spoke in that final interview with Kamloops there on just how much he learned in those couple of games. Maybe he wasn't ready for it at that point in time, which is okay. If you're getting thrust into a situation like that you're just like, I got to play, I don't have really a choice, you're going to have to learn trial by fire. And at least he kind of knows what to expect now as well, because he was playing against some of these opponents that we're going to see quite a bit here near the end. So I'm excited for it. And like we said, Coach Watson has to be thrilled to at least get a guy back. And he also got another guy back with Brogan Rafferty being reassigned. So they can probably actually field a normal roster instead of going 11-7, which I'm sure he's really excited about. And I don't know. I'm just looking forward to seeing him. I'm looking forward to get to talking to him and seeing what, if anything, can translate. Because like we said, if half can translate, that's huge for us.
Yeah, last year, just to update, last year he played on the 4th line. He was center with Curtis Hall. So
a big upgrade this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, Well, it'll be interesting to see high motor on this kid too. That was the other thing. Not only being physical on back check, forecheck, paycheck. So put some goals in there, and I'm excited. I'm super excited for this guy. So
Yeah, and we're going to talk more at the end of the episode about what the rest of the roster could potentially look like. So I know there's other names you guys are wondering if we're going to talk about them. Yeah, just stick around to the end of the episode. We got you. We know who you want to hear about. Outside of that, though, Austin Watson still in Detroit, unfortunately, and we're going to definitely talk about some roster stuff with this team and the organization as a whole here. Another piece of roster news, Jan Bednar was reassigned to the Toledo Walleye after a couple of games with the Griffins here. We saw him start one in Rockford. We saw him come in relief of Sebastian Cossa in Friday's game, which we'll talk about. And then he did start Saturday for the Griffins against Rockford here, too. So we had some playing time. And, before getting into the games, I just want to say, good job, Bedsy. I mean, coming into this, we didn't really know what to expect, if it would translate well into the AHL, but Travis, you've seen him all season, and to see what he did in these couple of games here, I was impressed.
Yeah, he's had a really good year, continuing to grow, right, and just develop. And the step that he took from last year to this year, you've seen it firsthand. Well, I've seen it firsthand. You look at his regular season stats last year, he had a 901 save percentage with a 266. And then this year he's up to a 914 and a 233 in 3 less games. So it just shows that, what a difference when you have somebody there working with you every day can do. I know we've talked about that a lot on the Toledo episodes, but it's just the fact, right? Like if you go back and look at both goaltending stats for both goaltenders last year that Toledo had versus this year, getting the extra helped, and I think it really helped with Bednar. I think he earned the look, played really well in every outing he's had so far, and really you're just so happy for him. It's like a 944 save percentage with a 130 goals against average in 3 games played, it says here. So it's just great for him. I'm excited for him. He's such a, he's put in the work, such a great person.
Yeah, I mean, he's really developed into quite a character, too. He's kind of broken out of his shell. At least we've seen behind the scenes a little bit. So that's how you always know they're feeling confident, right? They're feeling confident and comfortable and finally being themselves and not just this shell of a prospect that's trying to find their way. He's definitely found his way in both leagues now at this point. And a lot of people have asked what's going on with the goalie situation in GR. Why was he called up? Why hasn't Jack played? We don't know. Jack's healthy. There's question marks around there. Sure, his last few starts haven't been great. So they gave Jan a shot, and here's where we're at. And you got to also look at it like this. Why did they send him back now? The Griffins play one game Wednesday, then they're off until the following Wednesday. So I'm assuming Sebastian Cossa will start Wednesday for the Griffins. Get Jan back to Toledo. Get some relief in there for Carter, who had a heavy workload this weekend. And will we see him back up before the end of the season? Who knows? That's a question for probably another week out. And maybe we'll see something. Because, yeah, Jan's played well, and I think he's earned that shot. But the Griffins do have 2 goaltenders, and you add a third into the rotation. It's chaotic, and then that leaves Toledo with Carter Gylander and a rookie goaltender who did play this weekend, which we'll talk about Thursday on that episode. So,
well, they have a great other backup goalie too, Toledo with Ace.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Austin Kaiser also can fill in as a good backup too. Why not? But that is all the news and roster updates when it comes to everything that we know right now. We'll talk about some other stuff here with the roster, like we said at the end of the episode. But let's talk about these games this weekend. We have to. It's part of our job here, unfortunately. Let's talk about.
Let's go.
Thanks,
home.
Travis.
They lost them both. That's all you need to know.
That's not all they need to know. Let's talk about Friday's game. As Travis just said, yes, they lost both games this weekend. That happened. Friday's game, 4-1 loss against Rockford at home here. And this one could go up in that category as a statistically bad game for Sebastian Cossa, which is a pretty rare thing for us to say. We know his numbers haven't been wonderful since his reassignment to Detroit, and recently kind of found his way again and was putting up those numbers we're used to seeing. And then this game happens, and the only thing I could say is his glove hand broken? Is there a hole in the glove? Like three of the four goals were glove side. And that was kind of scary to see. Like Rockford found the way to get around Sebastian Cossa. Their play was very fast paced. Their puck movement was very quick. And they kind of got Cossa swimming a few times. And 2 of the goals were pretty identical. which is crazy because Jan Bednar does come in relief of Sebastian Cossa in this game. And Rockford tried one of the same plays that they had scored on Cossa. And Bedsy, thank God, was paying attention, and he read that play perfectly because Bedsy came in that third period and went a perfect 10 for 10. So, one, credit to him for being able to come in cold and do that. But this just wasn't Kossa's best game. And even Dan Watson mentioned it in postgame. It wasn't his best, but he'll bounce back. And we have all watched Cossa play long enough now at this point to know when he has a bad game, statistically or physically, he bounces back pretty quick. So we'll assume his next start he's going to look better, but that just wasn't a great look from him Friday night at all. I know, Nick, you had a lot of thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave him Wednesday off this week and just gave him let Jack go, have Jack go for starter. But Cossa, like straight from the first minute of the game, like looking at it, we lost the face-off. Rockford dumps it in, and Cossa bobbles it at there, and it almost goes right off the first minute. The first shot of the game almost goes in. And I'm just looking over at Rupe. I'm like, what is going on here? Rupe Koivunen is the goaltending coach for you.
You didn't say that to him.
No, I didn't say that, but I'm just like, this is the kind of game we got tonight. Okay, like, so I was like, we're going to be in for a long one. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I don't blame Cossa on all of them because there was a lot of 2-on-1s. There was a lot of breakaways. And it was two of them were glove side. One of them was snuck in on under the pad, or just stretched from the right leg of right leg of Cossa. So it just there's this organization in goalies has been very interesting this year. It's like you need a big save, you need a big stop, and it gains momentum. And we just weren't able to get that with Cossa, and usually he's pretty good at getting that. Whereas, Bednar, he came in, he stopped, and he played really well. He, picked up that momentum from the last game that he played. And I think, it was very solid. Like, nobody was nervous that Bednar was back there. I would honestly like to just see kind of Cossa and Bednar run it for the rest of the season, to be honest. And then,
Toledo fans will come after you. Oh, man.
That's okay, but I think he needs the opportunities. I think he needs, like, what are we really playing for at this point? Like, we're in the playoffs. We could slide, we can move up a little bit, I guess. This was a huge weekend for us to gain points, and we laid a big egg. So get Bednar some stats. Like, get him some games, get him some going. Like, let Cossa chill for a little bit. He's played a lot of games. I don't know.
I agree, but I also disagree. Like, again, this is just a statistically bad game for Cossa, and this isn't common. And I'm not going to put this loss on him entirely because, let's be real, the team in front of him, as coach would say, no compete.
No compete, no heart.
The compete level was terrible in this game. Total flip from the previous Saturday in Rockford. Yes, we, scored three of our three goals were on the power play in that game, and I understand that. And the Griffins had 0 power play opportunities in this game, which I'll talk about officiating here in a minute. But at the same time, they just he was left hanging quite a bit. And those 2 goals that looked very similar where Cossa was swimming a little, like, there's not much he could do there. That's the only save he could go to make unless he was going to fully commit to that backhand shot going over his pad there and slide over. But that leaves the other guy on the right side completely wide open. So again, I don't put it on him, but it wasn't his best game for sure. And shout out to Bedsy for coming in and playing extremely well. The only Griffins goal that was scored in this game we've got to talk about, it was Anton Johansson, his second goal of the season, and a beautiful heads-up play along the boards by Gabriel Seeger to just throw the puck out where Hunter was streaking in. One of those gritty, dirty goals you'd expect from a fourth line like that. And Hunter just streaks in and is able to tap it in, and his celebration right there, even in a 3-0 game or 4-0 game at this point, you could tell he personally was just hyped to get that goal. And that was a huge confidence boost for a guy who, let's be real, has worked extremely hard since his reassignment back from Toledo, where he had his 3 or 4 games down there. He's come up and looked like a better player. Sure, the stats might not be there, but the kid's working his tail off every game.
Yeah, I was good to see him put one in because he's been kind of that bubble player. Like when we are fully healthy, he's either scratched or sitting out, or he's down in Toledo. So it was good to see him get another goal. And it's very interesting this year compared to last year for him. It just feels like a very different player.
Yeah, it's weird, but I was happy for him. And win or loss, I know he felt, he wants to win, right? He doesn't
yeah.
care about the goal, but at the same time, that had to feel good. And to look at the confidence boost, I mean, that same line the next night, there was a whole shift I think we posted on our social pages from that line that was just unstoppable. Hunter was all over the ice, making plays left and right. And it was probably the most pressure the Griffins had at that point in the game. So credit to him, credit to the fourth line for doing their thing. And I said I was going to talk about officiating. I'll save it for the Saturday game. But like I said, the Griffins 0 power plays in this one. Rockford had 2. They converted on 1, and they did outshoot Grand Rapids 30-25. The Griffins only had 3 shots in the third period. Like we said, the compete just wasn't there, which is unfortunate in a game like this. It didn't. You're right. It didn't feel like they were ready. And at the same time, you got to peel it back to the big picture, right? You're going into this game 11-7 because that's all the players you have. Dan Watson had to use literally every healthy player that he had to form this lineup and throw it out there in a game where there's a team that is fighting and chasing them in the ranks in the division right now for a playoff spot. So that's tough. That's tough for any team to do. And you obviously it's the AHL. You have to be ready for things like this to happen. I just don't think they were ready for that particular scenario that day. Because I think some of those call-ups were a little last minute when they had prepared for this Rockford team. Because they looked very different from what we saw the last week. And credit to Rockford. A ton of adjustments coming in from Saturday's game to this Friday game. They looked like an entirely different team. They were fast. Their passes were crisp. The 2 power plays they had, the puck movement was unreal. And Drew Comesso at the other end. I mean, Comesso plays historically very well against the Grand Rapids Griffins. Good enough to where Rockford went with him again Saturday night. And as we've already said, they lose Saturday night too. And Nick, I know you had some stats pulled about Comesso against the Griffins that were kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, so this freaking goalie, I freaking hate this guy. I pulled the stats from this year because I feel like every time we play Rockford, we're always playing against Drew Comesso. So I pulled it back. He's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games against us. First game, 1.01 goals against, 9.947 save percentage. They went with him again on November 1st. 1 goal against average, 0.958 save percentage. We lit him up on the 18th. 3 goals against average, 0.893. So we got him on that one. They went back with him on the 13th. 5 goals against, 0.762. So maybe we're figuring this guy out. Next game we play against him, 3-0-2 for goals against, 0.875. So we got him in a good 3-game stretch. But then he turns it back on, 1.01 goals against, 0.960 save percentage. And then for Saturday, it was a 0.963 save percentage with a 1.01 goals against average. Like, when the guy's hot, he's hot, and he's hot against us. It is this season, this is what his season stats are, 2.51 and a 0.912. So
I mean, he's not a bad goalie.
No, not at all. And he elevates when we play against him. And the reason why, and if you can share your screen, Brandon, and scroll down to the shot chart against him for both games, all of our shots were from the freaking point. Both nights. Rockford did an extremely great job of keeping us to the outside, not getting high danger shots. Everything was to the side or to the blue line. Like everything. Look at this. I was like shocked when I saw this. I'm like, you can count 4 shots in the crease. You have 3 in the face-off circles. 7 shots. This
is Friday's game.
That's not going to do it.
That's pretty unreal. And then you look at Saturday as well. Saturday does get a little bit more.
It gets a little better, but
a little bit better.
Hang on a second. I got something here.
Yeah, throw it at me.
Okay, so I can't really do it, but I don't know, Brandon, if you can take your mouse and put it under the top face-off dot.
Which one? Over here?
And yep, go under to the left of that.
Okay.
So from the face-off dot to the face-off dot, pretty much. Like, yep, right, just like that.
Yep.
And then you come up to the top of the circle and then go on a diagonal out to that open area. Other way. Yep, that whole area. They call that the house. And that's protecting the house right there.
Rockford did a great job of it.
Great job of it. Like,
you cannot scheme to be, and this was a road game too. You can't play a much better road game defensively than that. Like, this is great by Nick, like, to point this out, because like when you hear like protect the house, like that was a big thing when I played hockey, was protect the house. And you literally can draw like a house with a box and a triangle, and you have a house. Like, it's not anything crazy, but that's your high danger areas. There's nothing in there that screams high danger. That's
especially when you look at the other side too. Look at Rockford, goal right here, goal right here, and then 2 right here, which was the identical goal, just opposite sides. Yeah, this makes a great point. The Griffins had 0 high danger opportunities there. And then when you flip it to the next night, you know, they had some more opportunities there, but there's still a big open area there that is
not good enough.
No, it's not.
And this is why a lot of their shots are going right to his freaking chest. Thank you, Andrew.
But when you look at the opposite, right? When you look at the opposite here, though, the Griffins did a better job of protecting that in this game, and that's why it was only a 2-1 game. They did a better job of protecting the house, as you would call it, or just leaving the slot protected at least. The Griffins started to get some more high danger opportunities, but not enough, and most of those went straight into Comesso's chest. Like, I mean, our friend Andrew and Aldi said, that's the biggest chest in the league.
Fastest chest in the league.
Biggest, fastest, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, ours still aren't great. You look at that, there's still, in between the hash marks is good, but right in front of the net's a problem.
Yeah.
And then the 3 right in the high slot, that's not ideal either.
No.
I mean, if you compare that, there's probably half a dozen, like probably 9, 10 compared to the Griffins, like 6 maybe?
Yeah.
If you go dot to dot and up to about where that one is, right in the middle of the in between the circles, it's just kind of, you can see a trend.
You can.
Can you're gonna hate me for this, but can you go back to Friday's game and then just do third period only for shots? I just want to see if it flipped at all when Bednar got in, if they did change the defensive structure for him. I'll look back for Bednar's first start and kind of analyze that, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to make you do all that right now, but just if you could go back to Friday's game and just third period shots and just kind of see what that looked like for Rockford.
Did the Griffins play in the third period in this game?
They had 3 shots in the third.
Three shots.
3 shots in the third.
And one's from the
other end.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell happened here?
It wasn't even an empty net shot either. And we're down 4-1 at this point, too. Because that Hunter goal came right there on the crease, right there. Like, that's 2 of the shots were in the third period in that crease. So I just wanted to see what Bednar had.
Well, the Hunter goal was in the third, so we're down 4-0 until he scores.
So he scores. So all of Bednar's shots really came from that right side. I mean, it's
2 shots near the crease and 1 from neutral zone here, but at the same time, all the shots came from one side. So the Griffins figured out how to shut down one side and the center, not the other. But at the same time, they didn't score in this. So, I mean, if you're keeping them to one side like that and only giving them that opportunity, letting your goalie clearly see that, it's probably going to go pretty well for you. And it did in that aspect, except for the fact that we just weren't shooting the puck in the third.
Can you switch it to see what we saw for Cossa for the first and second? So there was definitely a strategy here for them because you see they were more on the right side too.
I wonder if it shows. Hold on. First, second. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
So, I mean, you're seeing, and those goals, 2 of those goals came from the right side. So they were still leaning towards that side for the, I don't know, that maybe they should have shut it down towards the other side, but it worked. Whatever they did worked in the third. So
I really like this
definitely,
graphic.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Something we probably do more. If you're listening to us, jump over to YouTube, subscribe there, because I think we kind of got away from this year. And I think this really does tell more of the game and for us to analyze it a little bit better based off of where the shots are coming from and how well they're actually defending. But that's just me.
Well, good catch by you, man, to catch how much they were shutting down the important areas of the ice for Grand Rapids there. And that says a lot when you're talking about what the results were this weekend. Still talking about Saturday's game here. I don't want to get too much further because I think we're due for an ad break. So let's do that. We'll finish recapping Saturday's game here and then talk about the fun roster stuff for the playoffs ahead. So quick ad right now.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. A game's left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. Man, I hope you're a Patreon subscriber for that segue in the middle where the ad usually would be, because that was a fun segment to talk about there for you guys. So if you're not listening on Patreon yet, definitely, like we said in the beginning of the episode, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast to hear the elevator horror story from Van Andel Arena on Friday night. Anyways, moving on, let's continue to talk about this Saturday game here, because we showed you the stats. We kind of showed you where the shots came from. Again, credit to Nick for looking that up and finding that out. It's a great piece to throw in this episode here, so thank you, sir. This one, like we said, Bednar got the start in this one, and I thought he played well in this game overall. Yes, it's a 2-1 loss. The team did play better in front of him. The compete level was significantly higher, but Rockford still, having our number in this game. But to keep it a 2-1 game, Bedsy stopping a lot of shots in this one. Grand Rapids faced 29 in this, and Bedsy stopped 27. It was his biggest test as a Griffin yet, seeing as the first game he only faced 15 and then 10 in the third period the night before. So really happy with his performance overall. We just got to talk about the only part in this game that really matters to the Griffins is where the momentum swung. Josiah Didier gets into one of his probably best fights as a Griffin so far with Nolan Allen from Rockford here. Dids caught him with quite a few good right shots there. One really good uppercut straight to the jaw where I was like, that had to hurt. And the whole play leading up to that kind of goes into my officiating rant with this, where Dids gets his stick knocked out of his hand by Allen. And Dids looks at him kind of going, what the heck are you doing? Allen sweeps the stick a little further when Dids goes to pick it up right in front of the ref, which that is a penalty. No call. The ref just looks at him and tells him to pick it up. He does it again. No call. So at that point, the official's not policing the game. Didier throws a hit, which he felt afterwards, he said he felt was a good hit. Nolan Allen didn't like it, and they squared off, and Dids got the best of him in this one, and that arena immediately sounded like a freaking playoff game. It was so loud. It was rocking. The atmosphere was great. Credit to the captain stepping up and doing what he needed to do to get the place going. And literally 6 seconds into that power play, Amadeus Lombardi gets the only goal the Griffins had in that game. But it was a beautiful play off the faceoff from Sheldon Dries. Back to Bouillon, gets it to Ammo, who rips it past Comesso here. And Ammo celebration, pure electric. Like, that goal was electric. I know, Nick, you watched that part back. What did you think of that? Because we know how high you are on Amadeus Lombardi, as we all are. But that goal right there was just pure electricity.
He, even Friday, he played really well. Just picking people's pockets. He had a couple chances.
Still playing the wing.
Some dekes. Yeah, it's still playing the wing. Looking a lot more comfortable out there. Make up for what I said earlier about Finnie being lost. But, I mean, I wasn't at the game Saturday, and my buddy was there. He was like, did you go? And I was like, no, I wasn't there. And he goes, dude, after that fight, it was just pure electric. Like, it was so loud. And that Ammo coming in and getting that goal was just, you kind of get that momentum. And you're like, can I do it? Can they actually come back from this? And they had enough time. And it was 5 minutes into the third period.
They had enough time and enough chances. Like, they poured it on after that goal. They looked like a brand new team. And as we've alluded to, yes, it was electric. Like, that reminded me of how much fun Van Andel can get when it's a good sized crowd and everybody's bought into the game. Like, that's that arena is so much fun when the atmosphere is like that. There's really nothing like it. Sorry, Travis. I love Toledo, but when Van Andel's going like that, it's special. I wish it was consistent through every freaking game. I wish the fans could keep it going because the boys feed off that. And like we said, they looked like a brand new team. And just every chance they had, I wish I had the shots like after that point because they had 11 shots in the third period. I just wonder how many of those came after that goal there at that point because it really felt like they could win that game.
We could count them.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
But it like that shot too came from the point. It came from like not the point, but
no,
right,
that was more in the face-off circle.
Face-off, yeah, right in there. And Sheldon Dries did a great job of screening Cossa on it. I mean, he jumped to
Beautiful
get out of
screen.
the way. So I mean, that's kind of the shots we're kind of looking for. If you're gonna shoot from that far, you gotta have a guy in front of the goalie. So yeah, I mean,
And Ammo's clutch from that spot. Like he's been clutch in that spot since junior. Like when he is able to peel it back and do a little toe drag and fire it from that exact spot, he doesn't miss. He usually beats the goalie. So hopefully we see more of that. And it was a power play goal, which is a positive. The Griffins went 1 for 4 on the power play in this one, 4 for 4 on the PK. They did allow a shorthanded goal, as Coach Watson told me after the game. I told him he won the special teams battle. He said he felt like it was a tie, but he does agree that special teams did do a great job in this game. So at least we were agreeing on that point there. But at the same time, I was happy with the special teams play. The special teams could have won that game for the Griffins. The penalty kill, though, was unreal against a very lethal Rockford power play. And they made a lot of adjustments for this game to shut down their quick passes. The guys blocking up the lanes for the passing in this game was so much better than it was Friday night. It's just unfortunate they couldn't come out with a win. And you might look at this and be like, the Griffins played bad all weekend. No, they played bad Friday. They played okay to start Saturday, and they played great Saturday. It's just when you run into a goaltender that can be as locked in as Cossa is, and Trav, you and I are goalie nerds. Like, you can tell when a goalie is locked in by every action they make, whether it's skating to the bench during media timeouts and back and just how they look prepped. Like, Cossa looked locked in, and it's unfortunate that it happens to always be against us. But at the same time, this wasn't a bad game for the Griffins, which knowing that they still have, 4 or 5 more games against Rockford, it doesn't make us sound the alarm and go, oh God, Rockford figured us out and here we go. Again, depleted roster, lines that you're not used to seeing. Nick, shut up. Lines that you're not used to seeing, and you're going 11-7. So no one's really playing with the same guys all night long. Not to mention, all weekend long, you had a rookie defenseman mixed in there too with Anton Johansson. And I want to talk about his play this weekend. Yes, in this Saturday game, he does get burned bad by Savoy. Like he got burned. But again, a rookie's going to make mistakes and he's going to learn from them, right? You'd rather him learn from them now than in the playoffs. But I want to talk about Anton overall because not only just being a solid defender, this kid, 1, he is physical. 2, he is fast. 3, he is not afraid to shoot the puck. He gets the puck at the point and rips it on net, and it's very accurate. It's not like a 2-0 blast that might go 10 feet wide either side or high. He's very accurate with his shot, and if the Griffins start getting traffic in front of the goaltenders when he's on the ice, it's going to result in goals. But I'm very happy with what I saw from him in just his very young AHL career so far. And I think fans are going to grow to absolutely love this kid as he develops.
Yeah, I was stoked because I've been following this kid for 2 years, watching the World Juniors. Super stoked for him. Plays very mean style of hockey. And, I wasn't expecting a whole lot Friday. I thought they were going to go 11-7 on Friday, just based off the fact of getting Anton in, getting the rotation for defense, and trying to find, who's he going to pair with? Because that's what I'm most interested in until, we talk about another guy joining later. But I wanted to see how he fit in. And he fit in really well on Friday night, played well. With defensemen, you want to make sure that they're just pretty much invisible out there, right? Like there's nothing super noticeable. Like they're keeping the puck in at the blue line. They're not giving up turnovers at the neutral zone. They're not getting burned, like things like that. So he played really well. He was a little aggressive on the offensive side, I thought, which I'd like to see. We saw that a lot with Simon last year. We saw it a lot with Emmitt Johansson last year. They were scoring goals that way. And you see it with Brogan Rafferty too. So I like to see that. Saturday getting burned. Yeah, that was
it happens. Mistakes.
Good.
He made a couple mistakes Friday. He made a couple mistakes
player.
Saturday.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. So Is what it is. I'm excited to see who he's going to pair with moving forward once we get all our guys and go from there. And he gets another week of practice, and even media side, like it was good to talk with him because he was like excited to talk with us. I felt he was super happy and
very well spoken too.
Yeah, he had good English. That's what I was going to say.
That's always the biggest fear when these guys come over. It's like, are they going to understand what we're saying? And yeah, he's great English and very well spoken.
I'm excited to see how he progresses through.
I'm a fan of his play style, and I think it's going to fit in really well with this roster as you move forward towards the playoffs here. A week of practice is going to be great for him. I think he had maybe 1.5 practices before he jumped in for his debut. And that's asking a lot of a kid who just traveled across the world and landed here and jump in and go. Like he said immediately, like every player that comes from Europe says it. The size of the ice, time and space, it's tough. But he seemed to be able to do a decent amount with the time and space that he had. I mean, anytime a defenseman's just firing the puck on net, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Like he's getting the puck towards where it needs to be. He's not playing with it at the blue line, trying to figure out another pass or anything. He's like, nope, get it, rip it, go. And I'll take that play style all day long. And that's exactly what the Griffins need. I would be curious to know actually how many shots he had in that first game. I don't have that game sheet up anymore. I don't know how many of those shots made it to the goalie. But at the same time, how many of those shots from the blue line that they showed on that game center thing we shared earlier on screen were from him?
He had 3. He had 3 shots. Friday.
There you go. And 3 on Saturday.
3 on Saturday.
So happy with his play. You know, like we said, coach alluded to him making a couple mistakes, and that's totally fine. It's going to happen. And you just hope that everyone around him can pick up from those mistakes. The Savoy goal, he was the only guy back. Remind you that he was on the power play. Anton Johansson was on the power play units on Saturday.
Yeah.
That immediately shows that this coaching staff trusts this young defenseman to come in and make an impact. And again, mistakes happen. Oh, well, brush them off. We're not dwelling on them. There's other things that could have happened in this game for the Griffins to turn it around and win it. But at the same time, I'm really happy with what he's going to possibly develop into, and the fans are going to grow to love him very, very quickly with his physical play style. So that's all I have on Anton there. To wrap up the weekend, it's frustrating to lose both these games. Let's be real. The way the division's sitting right now, it's tight. You know, you have 2 teams already that have clinched the playoff spot in this division in both Rockford and Texas. The Griffins still sitting 3rd in the division, currently at 70 points. Chicago behind them in 4th at 63 points with 2 games in hand on Grand Rapids. Rockford behind them at 61 points with 1 game in hand on Grand Rapids. I assume over this next week and a half here, the games in hand will be sorted out as the Griffins do have a week off after their Wednesday game. But that's where everything sits as it stands right now. The Griffins are obviously going to be in a playoff spot. We want them to be at least 3rd in the division, which is the only place left to lock in to not have to play that best of 3 series to start off the playoffs. They could lock that up here over the next couple weeks. Hopefully they do. This game against Texas on Wednesday is a big, big game, and hopefully they show up with the compete level that we're looking for and that coach is looking for and come out of there with a big win. End the week on a high note, take your week off, use your practice time to get better and better and get new additions acclimated to the team, like Emmitt Finnie, like Anton Johansson, and potentially whoever else could be joining the team. And that's a perfect transition point to talk about what we could expect to see with Grand Rapids over these next couple weeks. So nothing is confirmed. What?
I do want to say the magic number is 4 for us to clinch.
And that can change as this couple weeks go on here. Like other teams playing games can change that magic number. Like we were told Friday, they could clinch potentially as early as Saturday, but they needed a lot of things to happen to make that happen. But the magic number does sit at 4. So let's talk about, though, the potential additions. Again, we don't know for sure what's happening. Everything is up in the air. And we've seen articles. We've seen people talk about things. There's basically one that we can guarantee will happen when his season is over in Sweden, and that's Michael brandsegg-nygard joining Grand Rapids. There was an article translated, I believe, by Red Wings prospects on Twitter that showed he will be coming to North America when that is done. I don't see any path that he goes to Detroit first. And let's remind everybody that if anybody comes over and goes to Detroit first, they are automatically not eligible to play with Grand Rapids for the rest of the season because they were not on the roster by the deadline date and time set by the American League. So MBN, most likely a guaranteed spot in Grand Rapids. How does that make both of you guys feel?
Travis, you start.
He should have been here all season.
I think Coach would agree with you on that one.
I should have been
Probably.
here. He should have been here all season. I just don't like that. I think it's Skellefteå, however you pronounce it. I think they've just kind of buried him in the roster. He wasn't really getting big minutes. Again, that's through conversations with our, I guess we call him a friend, Red Wings prospects. Like, I've talked to him a couple times about him and just what he sees, and he's said some stuff that, like, when I think, like, okay, so they're burying him basically and keeping him lower in the lineup, and that wouldn't have been the case here. Like, he wouldn't have been playing fourth line minutes most likely. You get a
Third or second line.
Yeah, you get a middle. He probably would have been in the middle six somewhere. I think the biggest thing is just going to be like, when he comes, what does that look like? How does his game translate? I got to see him in Chicago when the Wings played the Blackhawks in that preseason game I was at. He did play that night, so it'll be interesting to see how far he's come and what the smaller sheet will do for him. I think his size and his play style will benefit on the smaller sheet. It's just going to be a matter of picking up the timing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another physical forward, which is exactly what the Griffins need. A physical forward that can score goals. Like, that's exactly what they're going to need, especially heading into the playoffs. Like, let's be real. Our first round potential matchups are either
Milwaukee.
Well, they're Milwaukee. Unless Milwaukee passes Texas, then it's Texas. But it's going to be Milwaukee most likely, as long as we finish third in the division here, because the second and third seed are the ones that face off first in the first round there in the Central Division. So we're going to need a physical guy like MBN to come in and make an impact. Seeing that he's played some preseason games on North American ice, at least, it won't be too unfamiliar, but he's had a good amount of time off of that sheet of ice. So I'm sure the first couple games won't be the prettiest. I'm sure he'll make mistakes too as well, but at the same time, I think he can make a dramatic impact on this roster when it comes to playoff time with that physicality and with the ability to shoot the puck and score goals. That's what I'm most excited about for the potential for him to become that goal scorer that this team doesn't really have. We don't have that sniper. We don't have a guy that can just light it up like that and shoot it and it's going to go in a lot of the times. Like, yes, we have Amadeus Lombardi who can rip the puck from one spot on the ice right now consistently, unfortunately. It's very different.
This is a way different element.
I'm really excited for the fact that it all but looks confirmed that he will end up here as long as Skellefteå gets bounced here soon. I'm not rooting against them, but I am. Sorry to their fans, if anyone over in Sweden other than Lars listens to us. But at the same time, I hope we see him here sooner than later, and the prospect of that does really excite me.
MBN, Michael brandsegg-nygard.
The guy who's had Griffins jerseys in every auction this year, but never stepped foot on the ice.
Damn you, Brandon. I was going to say that. He's been here, just hidden somewhere. Maybe he's stuck in the elevator. But that's good for our Patreon. But I want people to, like, be hesitant towards this guy. Not high expectations. Just like Nate last year, coming in during the playoffs, playing. I know MBN has played in the men's league. He's played against the tougher, more physical, faster opponents than what Nate Danielson did at junior. I get that. But I like every time we get a new person, they're like, oh yeah, they're going to score. This is what they're known for. I'm definitely excited for this guy. I think he's going to be and like a kind of like an Elmer Soderblom, but more on the scoring side. But he's going to be that physicality that we've been looking for Elmer for the last few years, who's really like grown to be that role now. Because that's kind of the style that MBN is like, he's a power forward. He's physical. He's got this crazy shot with the arc that he puts into this. That's the biggest thing I remember about this guy, like watching him, is he's got that like OV arc kind of thing. I mean, if he's on the third line, he's going to be with the third line for this week was Gettinger and Becker.
It's going to be very fluid, buddy.
And the other, it's going to be very fluid.
The other third line was Gettinger, Becker, and Seeger. So, which, you know, it's going to be interesting. Maybe we'll do a lineup episode once we get closer to kind of where people fit and go. And you could see him first line with Nate and Snively. You could see him with Lombardi, Dries, and you put MBN at the second line too. So it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. I want people to like temper the expectations because I don't expect him to come in and be like Bergie last year. Just sniping, shooting, scoring.
I
don't think he's our
understand
savior.
I understand to be apprehensive about it, but the guys you just talked about who came in last year and didn't wow anybody, right? Like
Right.
how about Nate Danielson and Emmitt Finnie? They came from junior. This guy's coming from a men's league. We've seen what Anton Johansson, his play style already is coming from a men's league, and he already looks more like a cohesive part of this team on the ice than what those guys did when they first stepped on the ice. Playing in that men's league makes a big difference. So you can be apprehensive, but at the same time, the expectations from the organization on him will be higher. They'll probably be higher than what the fan base's their expectations are, because we'll all be apprehensive. Like, he just came over, but at the same time, the organization is going to be like, you've been playing with men this entire time. Get ready. Here you go again. You're going to go out there and play some big minutes on that second or third line, and we expect you to do well. So I understand to be apprehensive about it, but at the same time, I think he'll fit in and be less noticeable on the negative side than what those two were when they first stepped on the ice.
I'll counter that though, because Anton played 3 years in the men's league, and this is MBN's first year in the men's league.
Yeah, but he dominated the Worlds, if you remember. Like, he had a
Who?
huge
Dominated.
Worlds tournament.
Who?
MBN.
Dominate might be a little extreme, but he had a huge Worlds last year for Norway.
Which is also against men. We should say it's not a junior tournament. So he knows how to be physical against guys that are either bigger than him or older than him. Like, he knows how to play that play style. Based on his stats, if you look at his stats alone, like, I've looked at it and I'm like, I'm not sold on this guy. But as Travis kindly pointed out, he's been buried over there in that lineup. I watched Schlefte's playoff game on Friday before the Griffins game, and this dude is a physical menace when it comes to those big games. Every big hit on the ice was MBN, MBN, MBN. He's just hitting guys, which this team needs badly right now. Dan Watson talked to us on Friday and said, you're missing physical pieces like Austin Watson and Dominic Shine, and you need physical play from further down the lineup, and they didn't get it in that game. Credit to the younger guys like Doucette Saturday night was a menace hitting guys. He was using that physical body that we knew he had in Toledo and we've heard about more than I'd ever seen all season. He was getting the other team fired up left and right with some of the hits he was throwing. Like, he was getting them thrown off their game, and that's not the play we've seen from Doucette much this season. And let's be real, if Doucette keeps doing that all season, he's going to see himself move further up that lineup a lot quicker than he thought he would, because if he can provide the offensive upside that he has but play that physical game, he just became a dangerous player in this league. MBN, he's already got that ingrained in him. It's not like Elmer, who was just a big guy with good hands over there and he had to learn the physical style. MBN's got good hands, a good shot, and he knows how to hit somebody. So I've got faith in him. What do you got, Trav?
This isn't like a apples to apples exact reference here. I just want to point out something. 33 games played, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points for player A. Player B, 42 games played, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. Both in the SHL. The first player was Lucas Raymond.
All right, way to shut up our entire argument there, Travis. Well done.
Look, it's not like you'd have to go back and look at draft years. One was pre-draft, one was post-draft. But I just look at it from the sense of playing a lot in a league. And from what it sounds like, MBN was kind of buried or played lower in the lineup. I don't know where Raymond played. That was a long time ago.
Lucas was buried a little bit until he got drafted. Then I remember paying attention to him because that was a name that a lot of people talked about with the Red Wings potentially picking. And I was like, oh, he's playing second line tonight. He's playing fourth line next night. Like, he was buried and up and down the lineup. MBN this season has been buried.
Didn't Lucas play with some better players too?
He did.
Well, I just like...
Schlefte is not the wagon that they were a few years ago.
Right.
Well, I just look at that like, okay, you're a rookie. Now, granted, I think Raymond would have been maybe a year younger, maybe 2 years younger. I'm not sure, so some people can let me know. That'd be great. But I'm just comparing first professional seasons. Like, they're very similar. Brandsegg-Nygard's got, 9 more games and has 1 more point. So,
No, it's
similar.
It's a good point to make.
I'm not saying he's going to be Lucas Raymond. I'm just saying
You heard it here first, folks.
similar first year at the professional level in Sweden. Like
A mix
point
between
wise.
Lucas Raymond and Elmer Soderblom.
I mean, that's a great mix. That's a fantastic mix. I'll take that. The physicality that Elmer now has, plus the hands that Raymond has. Let's go.
Trav's like, I don't like this.
No, Trav's like, my words just got taken and thrown all different directions. But no, it is a good comparison to make, Trav, when you're talking about the SHL overall, right? So who knows, but it is a positive sign for Grand Rapids that all signs point to MBN being on the Griffins roster, at least when it comes to playoff time. That's huge. The other guy, on the other hand, that everyone wants to know about is Axel Sandin Pellikka. Where does he go when Schlefty is done? And nobody knows.
I know.
You don't know.
He's coming to North America.
Oh, Jesus. Thank you,
You already
Nick,
said
for the
that.
obvious.
You're welcome. That's
So
what I'm here for.
That is the obvious that was pointed out. Again, shout out to Red Wings prospects for translating articles from over there. They said North America, and there was one article that specifically said it depended on where Detroit was in the standings, what Detroit would do with that situation. I don't care where Detroit's at in the standings, and this is my personal opinion. Do not, and I mean do not, put him in a Detroit Red Wings uniform this season because he, one, will not be allowed to come play in Grand Rapids where he could play meaningful games down the stretch here and play playoff hockey. Just to throw him in for us to miss the playoffs by 1 point by some team pulling a goalie at the end of the game or something stupid like that. Get him here, let him develop, let him adjust to North American ice to end this season, throw him into a Red Wings uniform next year. No, that is not entirely just being selfish Griffins fans here. I think that's truly what's best for his development. Detroit has done a terrible job of picking apart this Griffins roster down the stretch here just to call up guys and have them sit. For example, yes, Austin Watson's playing tonight, but Dominic Shine's sitting. Brogan Rafferty was called up all weekend. Would have been great to have another defenseman on the roster this weekend that we could have used.
Why?
I'm not going to say why specifically, but it would have kept one defenseman out of the lineup. But anyways, stop calling guys up just to sit. There's no minimum expectation they need to meet to have guys that are available, especially when Jeff Petrie was on the dang trip.
William
Come on.
Lagesson?
He played a game finally for the first time since I think January, and didn't get assigned to the Griffins on paper to be available for the playoffs. That's a whole other rant. Before I get off on a tangent just by being angry at Detroit at this point, because not only are they hurting Grand Rapids, they're actually hurting Toledo in the process too. You're hurting both rosters by just making dumb decisions. ASP. I vote that he comes to Grand Rapids. Who votes against me in this one? Half of the Red Wings fans, let's be real. But
All right, we'll get Brandon off the soapbox. I mean, there's no way Detroit loses the playoff spot by just 1 point with a goalie having a team pull a goalie. And
no, it's gonna be a
score,
lot
right?
more than that.
There's just no way that has that ever happened before.
Shut up.
Here's kind of my thoughts on this is that yes, nobody cares about Grand Rapids. Nobody cares about Toledo. Like it's all for the bigger team, right? It's all for the Red Wings. It's what's going to benefit them the most, what's going to get them into the playoffs, what's going to get the fans off everybody's back and everybody to stop saying fire Yzerman. So I understand the point of bringing them here to bringing them to Detroit and having them get some play. I completely get that. I think it could be beneficial for him to just be there, but not play any games to see like how the organization is ran for like maybe a week, right? And then sending him down to us. I think these last few games of our regular season and the playoffs would give him the tryout for next season. You get him here. I don't know how many games it's going to be left based off of whenever they get ousted in the playoffs. Right now, that series is tied 1-1. the freaking acronym kids saw the hot mess over here and said, "Hey, we're gonna stay over here for a little bit," and they scored 4 goals. They accounted for 4 of the goals the other night. ASP had 3 assists and MBN had a goal. So I think it would be beneficial for them to come over here, get those tryout games, really get accustomed to the time change, because even Anton said, he's like, I was up at 1 o'clock, I was up at 4 o'clock, I was up at 3. I didn't really sleep a whole lot. Get them adjusted, get them on the time zone, get them on the, acclimated to everything here, the smaller ice, get them adjusted. And I know they played on the Olympic size ice. Some of them have. And Nygard was here for training camp. They've played in the Olympics. Some of them have played in the Olympics. I don't know, in the World Junior, do the Worlds play full ice, NHL ice?
Worlds is bigger ice, yeah. It's double IHF.
It's
Anything double
okay.
IHF is bigger ice.
So
Yep.
that doesn't help us. But bring them over here, get them adjusted. I mean, if you could see ASP with Anton Johansson, because that's the pairing that was in the World Juniors, get those guys going. I mean, I think that would be an easier acclimate than putting them up there with who are you going to put ASP with up there? Jeff Petrie. Sorry, I couldn't say that with, or who? Justin
Put him with Justin
Holt?
Holt.
I just.
The correct answer would be Simon Edvinson.
That is the correct answer, but that's not what's going to happen. Like, it's going to be something stupid.
I feel so bad about laughing about that, but I literally
know.
can't like bring him here, get him acclimated, bring him here, like get him the tryout. I mean, if this is the only chance you're gonna see of him on the North American ice at Grand Rapids, okay, so be it. Like, well, we can live with that. And then he gets the whole off season, he gets right into training camp, he gets the preseason games with Detroit, and then boom, he's there knocking down the door. Like, I think having him be here kind of gives you that opportunity of like, how ready is this kid? Like he's got the sizzle.
Ready. Let's be real. He's got the sizzle. He's got the flash.
Yeah,
he's ready. But it's not going to hurt his development to play meaningful games in Grand Rapids. And I understand the argument from some Red Wings fans where they go, he's automatically the 3rd best defenseman on the Detroit Red Wings if he shows up there. Sure, that's great. What are they playing for at this point? I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs. That's totally lost in my mind.
Tank.
Yeah, let's get that second pick, right? But at the same time, it just makes more sense for him to be here. You're going to put him in a room with defensemen who, there's plenty of experience down here. Great leadership in this locker room. You're going to put him up with a couple other Swedes on defense too here.
I have a crazy suggestion, and I know if I would have asked Coach this on Friday, he would have probably slapped me. But
you should have. I would have liked to see that.
He was already pretty mean to me because it's not.
No, he wasn't.
The question I asked was not how I wanted it phrased. But
that was
what
your
if?
fault.
Yeah, that's my fault. What if we put ASP in a forward position?
Don't start that.
Oh my god, we don't have enough time in this episode for that.
We have so many defensemen. Why don't we put this guy in forward and see what he does?
I apologize to everybody else for that take.
I mean, the guy can score from just about anywhere. Let's put him there.
Look, to bring it all back in before this
kidding.
gets off the rails entirely.
Half kidding.
I'm sorry, Red Wings fans. He should be in Grand Rapids to end this season. I understand that push for the playoffs. What to push to what? To get bounced in the first round? Who gives a rip?
No.
I'm sorry.
If you're in, you're in. You got a chance.
That team ain't winning a playoff series. I'm sorry. I'll say it right now. And every one of those guys, if they listen to this show, which I doubt anybody wearing a winged wheel uniform on a nightly basis listens to this show, but if they do, I'm sorry. You're not making the playoffs.
Here's my theory. What's the correct answer versus what does everybody want? Everybody wants to see him in Detroit. I want to see him in Detroit.
Me too.
And here's the thing, like, yeah, we cover the Griffins, but like, I've only really watched them for a year and not even every game. Like, it's when I can with my schedule down here for the Walleye. Guys, like, could he do it? Absolutely. 100%. No questions asked. He probably would be the 3rd best defenseman on the team. What good is burning a year from his ELC when, if any of this translates to his offensive production, if any of that translates to the North American side, have you seen what some of these offensive defensemen are getting paid?
It's insane.
Like, I'm just saying, if he goes nuclear, running a power play, you're going to have to pay him. So why not kick the can down the road another year?
No. You pay him now. You do it now. You
No.
burn the ELC. Yeah.
No.
Why?
You want to pay him sooner?
Yeah, because there's only so much cap. The cap's going to go up later.
You want him as cheap as you can get for as long as you get.
Right, which will be now. Cost controlled.
Cost controlled would be pushing him back a year.
You gonna sign
and
his
starting
extension
it
now?
next year.
Nick's ready to put paper to pen now. Sign his 8-year extension right now.
Yeah, let's do it. It's going to be way better when our window opens. Think about it.
I can't wait for the comments on this video. I really
I'm
can't.
just saying,
They're going to be great.
For the simple fact being that if you play him 9 games this year, you burn year 1, so you have him for 2 years. Okay? He's still cost controlled for 5-6 years, right? But here's the thing. If you give him 3 full seasons, that's a whole nother year that you get with him making sub $1 million.
We're just going to have to pay him more later.
Okay, that's a problem for down the road. Nick, what I'm saying is, like, if he comes in, tears this up, the price is just going to skyrocket. So if you can keep him cheaper longer, maybe then you make the playoffs. All of a sudden, you have a little extra space in year 3 of his ELC, which would be year 2 if you burn it this year.
I'm glad you brought up that point, because all the argument back and forth, we haven't even talked about that aspect of the deal yet. And that does make more sense than burning it. It 100% does. And again, I'm sure we've just sounded like Grand Rapids homers through this entire thing, but he belongs in a Red Wings uniform next season. He should not wear the winged wheel until next season.
Odds are he's probably going to bridge anyways, and you get him you bridge him and then go on and so forth. But I'm just saying, like, they're not going to make the playoffs. Why would you burn a year of that contract to maybe get in when you can start fresh and have him play in the playoffs in Grand Rapids? Because let's be real, if they had him plus Elmer plus Shine plus Watson plus MBN, that team's a lot better on paper than they are right now. Plus Emmitt Finnie.
100%.
Like, there's no debating that. And I'll tell you right now, Pellikka's going to be running your first power play unit night 1 of the playoffs
as he should.
Right.
Question, can he hold the puck at the blue line?
I think you're going to see that he can hold the puck in at the blue line.
All right, I'm sold. Thank you.
I'm just saying, like, it's better to overripe, and, like, if you're not going to make the playoffs, there's just no point in burning a year.
But what if we bring him in and we can make the playoffs? What's better for his development?
Get swept
Red Wing playoffs?
Get swept first round. Like,
AHL playoffs. An AHL playoff first round this year against a team like Milwaukee is going to be way better for his development than getting swept in the first round in the NHL playoffs. Because he's going to play against a roster that is stacked.
You have a higher chance of going deeper in Grand Rapids than you do of even making the playoffs in Detroit.
Again, would you rather him get swept in the first round of the NHL playoffs or play the Calder Cup finals against the Hershey Bears?
We're not going to the Calder Cup finals.
I'm just saying, for example, would you rather that happen? Like,
there's a lot of
those games are going to be a lot more important than getting swept in the first round of the NHL playoffs.
Look, I was a kid. He's one of my favorite prospects that we've drafted in the last since Yzerman's been here. Just because he's so different from anything that the Red Wings have. He is so much different. Like, Seider is a great two-way defenseman. Edmondson is, like, he shows that he can do it offensively. He's pretty solid defensively. He's, I would say, a two-way defenseman. This is a two-way defenseman that's putting up nuclear numbers at a professional level overseas. And when he played against his own competition, again, just ran away with it almost. Like, he was just so good. Like, again, it takes time to translate too, and that's why the correct move is to just send him to Grand Rapids, let him get his feet underneath him, and don't ruin a prospect by throwing him into games that, okay, what if it goes bad, like horrendously bad?
You shake his confidence immediately.
Correct. Just
What if
send
he
him
breaks
to
his
GR.
kneecap the first game?
Yeah, that.
Marco
It's happened
Casper.
before.
Okay, so
Um,
if he stays here, watch him have a huge playoff and then tears it up next year and is a Calder finalist. Like,
I just give you
not-
the argument against too. You know.
Oh, we know. That's why you're here.
here.
it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you? If you the long
Playoffs or
game-
bust.
It's long game with Yzerman. It's always been long game.
For how
And-
long? It's been 10 years since we've been
oh,
to the playoffs.
shut up, people.
Jesus
God. Let him cook.
Let him play chess while everybody else plays checkers.
Yeah, I mean, I look
Man,
back at
didn't-
some of these teams, and it's like Boston hasn't won a cup since 2011.
Correct.
Who's freaking out there? Chicago.
I mean,
hasn't won a
everybody
cup
now is
since-
freaking out there. Let's be
Well,
real.
yeah, I think they finally decided to do the rebuild now. But Chicago, they haven't won a cup since it's been a while as well.
There's
Over
teams that
10
have
plus
never
years.
won it. And this fan base panics more than those fan bases. Settle down. Let it play out. Let Yzerman cook. You saw what he did in Tampa. We understand it.
Pieces
Calm
are in
down.
place here.
This is starting to look
Well,
like the
Christmas?
Syracuse Crunch did during that time, which is Tampa's affiliate. You've got to let it build. And Syracuse was a wagon for 5 to 7 years, and they should know that really well because Grand Rapids beat them twice in the finals.
But did Syracuse sign people throughout like the offseason to like ATOs, PTOs? Did they
That's
like bring in
topic for
veterans?
another day. 'Cause
That is
you're
a
gonna
topic
send
for
me on
another
a rant
episode.
that you do not want right now.
Oh, good Lord. To wrap that all into a bow for everybody, let us know in the comments what you think. We know the irrational side of the Wings fan base thinks that ASP should be in a Wings uniform to end this season and push for the playoffs. We understand. We know there's rational thinking fans out there, though, too, that might agree with us. But let us know where you stand on this argument and just how excited you are to potentially see either one of these kids wearing a Griffins uniform or a Winged Wheel uniform this season. Like, the excitement level is there to see these prospects finally arriving. Like, that's such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing for us to be able to watch these guys develop at this level and talk about them on this show with everyone and share our thoughts, opinions, and talk about their play at this level too. We've seen so many awesome prospects come through this organization over the last few years that have been so much fun to watch, like Simon Edvinsson, like Jonathan Berggren, like Albert Johansson. And we're continuing to watch the future of the Red Wings grow in Grand Rapids here. And hell, some of them are developing in Toledo right now too. You never know when you're talking about goaltenders as well. Like, crazier things have happened. Look at Sebastian Cossa as we watched him develop from Toledo to Grand Rapids. This is what makes this fun. This is why we do this show entirely. We're not here to talk about Detroit. We're here to talk about the future of Detroit and what that's going to look like. And we are so darn excited for what the end of this season roster could look like. But again, let us know your thoughts and opinions down below. Guys, I'm going to cut you off in that argument there and wrap up this episode because I already don't want to edit it tonight, but I have to. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. As always, stay tuned for our future episode down the road here this week for our update around the Toledo Walleye, who had a nice 3-3 at home this weekend with a bunch of storylines to talk about in that one. I cannot wait to tear that weekend apart with Travis here and figure out what happened and what to look forward to as the playoffs loom near in the ECHL, and an update on who's got the 4th spot in the Central Division, because nobody knows. It's still a toss-up. So stay tuned for us to talk about that. As always, we've got to thank our sponsors of the show, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure when you're betting with DraftKings, you use code THPN, and when you're shopping at everythinghockey.com, you use code WEST. Save a few bucks off your order and help support the show. And as always, we got to thank our Patreon subscribers who we mentioned throughout this episode. You head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers we have there. But we got to thank the subscribers who are currently there, and those are...
We've got Randy, L, and Derek, Elaine, Griffin, John, Lori, Michael, Claire. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to everyone who subscribed over there. To end the episode off, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube page, follow us wherever you get your podcast, leave comments and thoughts of what we've said and some of the arguments that were made here. Oh boy, I can't wait to read them this week. With that, everybody have a fantastic week. As always, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.